They laughed at first. Not nervous laughter, not uncertain laughter, the kind of laughter that comes from people who think they've already won. Cackling, loose, drunk on their own mythology. Witches who bragged about hexing kings and collapsing bloodlines like party tricks. Freaks who wore their trauma like costumes, parading pain as identity. Psychos who sharpened their egos on misery and called it enlightenment. They had stories, they had reputations, they had legends they told themselves at night to sleep better. They thought they'd seen the worst. They thought chaos peaked before you ever showed up. Then the room changed, not with a bang, not with a scream, with absence. The laughter didn't stop all at once. It thinned, like oxygen leaving the room. Something stepped in that didn't announce itself, something that didn't need permission. You walked in, no weapon in your hand, no threat on your lips, no drama trailing behind you. Just that silence. The kind of silence that doesn't beg to be noticed but demands it anyway. The kind of silence that makes even hell hesitate and ask, who let that in? You didn't shout to be heard. You didn't posture. You didn't explain. You smiled, and that's when it happened. That grin, slow, measured, unbothered, hit the room like gravity. Not aggressive, not friendly, knowing. Every demon felt it in their spine. Every monster suddenly became aware of exits, locks, distances. You weren't loud. You didn't need to be. You were seismic, the kind of presence that doesn't move furniture. It moves foundations. And somewhere in the back of their minds, before fear had words, before panic had form, a single thought whispered through the room. This one doesn't belong here. And that's the problem. They called you crazy like it was supposed to hurt, like that word still had power in a room full of people who built entire identities out of broken minds. They said it with a laugh, with that smug little tone people use when they think they're above the chaos they secretly worship. Crazy, as if they hadn't learned insanity by rote, as if they hadn't memorized it, rehearsed it, turned it into fashion, philosophy, and profit. Witches who called obsession intuition, freaks who called self-destruction authenticity, psychos who called cruelty clarity. They wrapped madness in language and pretended it made them enlightened. But you didn't talk about insanity. You didn't romanticize it. You didn't perform it for attention. You organized it. You stood there calm, contained, deliberate. And suddenly their version of crazy looked sloppy, unfocused, desperate, cheap. They realized something that made their smiles twitch. You weren't losing control. You had already mastered it. Their madness leaked. Yours held shape. Their chaos spilled into noise. Yours stayed silent and lethal. They acted wild to feel powerful. You were still, and that terrified them. Because stillness in someone who's been to hell isn't peace, it's command. They sensed it then, that subtle shift where mockery dies and instinct takes over. You weren't one of them. You weren't acting. You weren't hiding behind costumes, spells, diagnoses, or excuses. You were exactly what they pretended to be when no one was watching. And that truth landed like a punch they didn't see coming, because people who fake madness can't stand someone who wears it with discipline. People who cosplay darkness panic when someone who actually survived it walks in smiling. They didn't laugh as loud after that. They didn't look you in the eye. They felt exposed, like their carefully curated insanity had just been audited by something real. That's when the fear started. Not loud fear, not screaming fear, the quiet kind, the kind that crawls up the spine and whispers, whatever this is, it's not here to entertain us. And from that moment on, crazy stopped being an insult. It became a warning. The witches tightened their grip on their spell books, whispering protection prayers they didn't even believe in anymore. The freaks stopped dancing, started praying to gods they mocked last week. And the psychos, they started checking mirrors, not to admire themselves, to see if you were standing behind them. That's how deep it went. You didn't scare monsters. You made monsters paranoid. Because here's what broke them. You didn't want revenge. You didn't want power. You didn't want the world to burn. You wanted to watch it burn itself while you stayed calm. No urgency, no attachment, no hunger. You weren't trying to join their circus. You came to shut it down and let the animals roam free. You were the punchline that ended the joke, the crack in the mirror that finally bled, the kind of crazy that doesn't scream in padded rooms. It redecorates them. They thought they were the final boss, thought their demons wore the biggest boots in the underworld. Witches drunk on ego, freaks numbing themselves with chemicals and excuses, psychos erasing moral lines they drew themselves. Then you showed up uninvited, dragging your shadow behind you like it owed you money, and suddenly everyone forgot their script. You didn't steal the scene, you rewrote the play, you didn't kill the vibe, you put it in a chokehold and made it tap out quietly. You didn't walk through hell, you set up shop, charged rent, told the devil to smile for the camera. That's why they ran. Not because you attacked them, but because you didn't need them. You weren't trying to win. You weren't trying to prove anything. You were laughing at the idea that there were ever sides to begin with. Chaos wasn't your destination. It was your starting point. They called everyone, covens, cults, committees. Nothing worked. Because how do you fight someone who already danced with their own madness, married it, and took it on a honeymoon through trauma? You didn't hide your darkness. You introduced it proudly. And now, the witches won't read their own spells out loud, afraid your name might be hidden between the lines. The freaks are back in therapy, trying to understand why your smile broke something in them. The psychos, they've gone quiet, somewhere peaceful, somewhere without mirrors, because you weren't supposed to exist. You're the glitch in the nightmare, the laugh track in a horror film, the calm nod before the explosion. They thought they were built different, until you showed up with the blueprint and wrote, "Try again," across it in red ink. They finally understood. You weren't the storm. You were the forecast error. Now they whisper your name like it's bad luck. They lock doors not because you're coming, but because you already got in. Through the cracks in their logic, through the holes in their rules, through the screams they thought protected them. You're not outside knocking. You're in the walls. You didn't need a knife. You were the idea of the knife. You made insanity look free, and once fear becomes funny, it's over. They had systems, rules, hierarchies. You showed up in slippers and rewrote everything with sarcasm. So let them shake, let them chant, let them hide behind symbols and rituals and noise. You're not hiding in the shadows. You are the shadow, and the night's just getting started.